The 7 deadly sins have been used to highlight several rappers in the industry, but what if I told you you don't need to look any further than the Opium label? In fact, as a collective, the Carti-owned record label has committed every single one of these sins, and some members could even be categorised multiple times. Pride is considered the original and worst sin of the 7. Deemed as the devil's most essential trait, it's only fitting to begin with Playboi Carti. Thought of as the anti-God state, pride can be the source of all other sins, and there's no shortage of Carti's wrongdoings. But in April of 2020, we can find the most blatant evidence of Carti's pride. At the time, Carti was in a relationship with Iggy Azalea, and she had fell pregnant with Carti's child, which is where this famous voice note originated.
This man didn't even come to see his son be born. He went to Philly to play the PlayStation with little Uzi.
Like you just heard, Playboi Carti preferred to play Call of Duty with Uzi as opposed to going to see his own son be born. Now, if you have any doubts about this, like maybe the birth was extremely sudden, Carti was away and he couldn't get there in time. Well, no. In the same Instagram live, Iggy had also stated that the birth was a planned C-section. Carti has literally no excuse for not being there. It's a blatant scenario where the artist must have thought he was too important to see his own child be born, as if playing PlayStation with Lil Uzi was more important to him. There was no affection or empathy for his pregnant girlfriend. I mean, he had been cheating on her throughout the duration of their relationship. All the artist cares about was himself. Just to pile the evidence on further, take note of the name of Carti's unreleased album, Narcissist. Narcissism is a mental health condition in which people have a heightened sense of their own importance. Does that sound like anybody to you? Narcissism and pride go hand in hand, and the artist was going to use that as the name of his project. Carti has committed the sin of pride, and not just on one occasion. The artist knows he's wrong, but doesn't plan to do anything about it. Now, whilst a lot of the Opium members could be used for the greed section, I've had to go with Destroy Lonely, mainly because he literally has no allegations against him and is a saint compared to his peers. Greed is defined as the desire for material wealth or gain, and in the case of Destroy Lonely, he went as far as basically scamming his own fans for a bit of cash. During the release of Lone's album, If Looks Could Kill, the artist released merch alongside the album. Whilst the design of the apparel could be a sin in itself, what we'll be focused on is the mask. The mask that was advertised on the website is completely different to what fans received in the mail. I mean, just take a look at the difference in quality. It's basically a rep from AliExpress. No, seriously, you can literally buy it for $15. Destroy Lonely used the dropshipping method to make a quick buck off his fans, and completely ripped him off in the process. This obvious cash grab, alongside all the flexing and bragging within his music, is what has given him the sin of greed. Next, we introduce a lesser known member of Opium. Sexisdeath is the epitome of the sin of lust. Now, if you don't know who this is, in short, she's from Denmark and she's basically the creative director of Opium. She helped design a bunch of promotions and she even directed the Backrooms music video. The definition of lust is the inordinate craving for pleasures of the body, and whilst her name suggests she is against the act, her Instagram posts say the complete opposite. Sexisdeath's social media page is full of nudity of herself and other people. Now, to be fair to her, she is a tattoo artist and showing skin is just a part of the job. However, her lust is further evident in the Backrooms music video that she directed. A lot of the video is shots of a half-naked model who is literally sat in a room and only used to show off her body. Whilst a lot of the Opium members could have been used for this section, I've opted to try use every person involved with the Opium label instead of just using the same 3 people for each sin. We'll move back into the musical artists of Opium with the rap duo Homixide Gang. As probably the most controversial people on the label, Homixide find themselves committing the sin of envy. The situation we'll look at in particular is the altercation with Summers. In November of 2023, at the New York Box Fest, the duo, alongside several other people, jumped the rapper Summers and took his jewellery. Envy is the desire for others' traits, status or ability, so whilst the rappers had a physical altercation, it may have stemmed from the jealousy of Homixide Gang. Like I said, the fight ended with Homixide stealing Summers' chain, which is just the first sign of envy. The rap duo may be jealous of Summers' success, which is why they felt like they had to take something that belonged to him. Allegedly, the fight began from Michi bad-mouthing Summers. Whilst we don't know what was said, it's obviously intended to cause problems with the artist, and most people commit the sin of envy because someone is better than you. Summers could definitely be considered a more successful artist than Homixide Gang, so they may have been looking for some publicity by starting beef with an artist bigger than them. In fact, the envious actions of Homixide Gang may have been the entire reason the Antagonist tour was postponed, which affected every single member of the Opium label. Gluttony is the act of eating and drinking in excess, and we could go with no one but the shape-shifting artist Ken Carson. Since the Teen X artist blew up, the difference in his weight is extremely visible. Now I'm all for someone eating good, but it nearly got to the point of obesity for Ken. Due to him blowing up, the artist will have access to much more food and drink as a result of his increased wealth. Let's take a few pictures of Ken from early on in his career and compare that to nowadays. He's definitely been indulging in a lot more food. But the main culprit for his weight gain, as for many other artists, will be the lean. The codeine, the fizzy drinks, and anything else he may mix together all results in a high calorific output. But instead of just getting a lean gut, Ken's entire face and body changed, resulting in him becoming the face of hundreds of memes. Ken Carson constantly raps about the amount of drugs he does in his music, and it seriously impacted his health, but also how he looked. To be fair to the artist, he does tend to lose weight every now and then, which is probably a result of the amount of memes he has to see. There's definitely no one else in the Opium label I could have chose, especially considering Carti's diet and lone skinniness. As for Raph, I definitely could have picked a lot of the Opium members, but Blackhaine is my final choice. Who is Blackhaine, you might ask? Well, you know that angry bold man that announces songs during Playboi Carti's rollout?
New music! Carti! Travis Scott! Dropping! Today!
Well, yeah, that's him. Raph has a strong feeling of hatred or resentment, and it's often characterized through intense anger, rage, or hostility, which perfectly describes the actions of Blackhaine. His anger is literally bursting through the screen in the announcement videos, and it's backed up through the use of curse words. But he's not only an announcer, he's also Playboi Carti's backup dancer, and he's developed his own style of dance that would often leave him bloodied and bruised. If you take a look at the dance, you can see that the emotions are similar to those that you associate with the sin, as well as it just looking extremely devilish in itself. But Blackhaine doesn't even need to do anything to exude that feeling of wrath. His skinhead does all the talking, but his actions certainly prove that he's a worthy choice. Finally, for the sin of sloth, I've gone for an unsurprising choice in Playboi Carti. The simple definition of sloth is basically just laziness, and after Carti missed the deadline for his latest album, again, there was no better person to pick. Aside from him lying and not dropping solo music in way over 3 years now, which isn't news to anyone, so I won't waste your time with it, the artist also finished Whole Lotta Red just 5 days before it was set to release. He did exactly what I do with my school assignments, leaving them to the very last minute after spending months not even thinking about them. Yet it still paid off for him, with the album already being hailed as a classic, just like my schoolwork. A slothful person is also described as unwilling to act or care, and if one thing was clear to us about the artist, it's the fact that he does not care. No word about the missing album date, no word about his tour being cancelled, no words at all. As for someone who does update his fans, make sure to check out my previous video detailing how Yeet blew up because of a singular song snippet.